on. There's a whole natural disaster. You still expect me to sit for the test. What else can go wrong? What else can go wrong at this point?
It does.
What's up, pretty gang? Thank you all so much for coming back to my channel. My name is Jay, and today we're going to be talking about my L.S.A.T horror story. The story I'm going to be talking about today, this is when I took the L.S.A.T my third time, and honestly, everything went wrong. So for context, all of these stories happened in 2019, so pre-Rona. I'm also going to be having some tips for you all so you all can excel when you take the LSAT. I know that this is also during a pandemic, so I'll be throwing in some tips as well so you can thrive during your virtual administration as well. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this. Also, if I be looking down, I have my notes and dandy little notes, just so I can keep my story straight and it makes sense of everything that happened. And this was during the traditional proctor test in the test center or area. The night before, I was ready. I had my little pouch. You know how in the traditional in the traditional test, I still feel like I'm saying that word weird. Okay, the regular test, you know what I'm talking, you know what I mean. You have your little pouch, your little Ziploc bag full of your pencils, your pencil sharpeners, your ID, your LSAT ticket, your lunch, all in that little Ziploc bag. So I had that prepared the night before. So it's the morning of the test. And I wake up, I get my coffee. When I tell you that that's when everything just went crazy, like I drank my coffee and then boom, I had the TV on and the news came on and they say a fire has broken out all across Los Angeles. Not all across, but it was in my neighborhood. A fire broke out in my neighborhood and it shut down the main freeways for me to go from my neighborhood to the test center. By this time it was 8 a.m. and I was just like, how am I going to get down there? And I was freaking out. I was freaking out. My parents were freaking out. There's a fire encroaching onto our neighborhood. So it's just like, okay, we're gonna have to evacuate. Am I even going to make it to the test center? Is there even going to be a test? Because a lot of people are... And so I grabbed my pouch, I grabbed my keys, and I head out the door and I just book it. When I'm stuck in traffic, I decided to call LSAC. And I asked one of the representatives, like, hey, there's a wildfire going on. It's preventing me from getting to my test center. Is the test still being administered because there's a whole natural disaster occurring? Tell me why the representative said,
we're still going to administer the test, and you're either there or you're not.
What? Like, come on. There's a whole natural disaster. You still expect me to sit for the test. So this is my first tip. Tip number 1, make sure you pack everything the night before. Say we go back to regular test administrations and we are in person again. You want to make sure that you have everything prepared. You have everything in your Ziploc bag, everything that is required. You want to make sure that you're not scrambling around in the morning and then you're stressed out because, oh, you forgot something. But say you're about to take the virtual test, the LSAT Flex. LSAT Flex. What do you need to prepare the night before? Make sure that your internet is working. Maybe invest in an Ethernet cable so you can have direct access to the internet. You do not want your LSAT to fail or the internet to fail while you're in the middle of your test. If you're also taking the virtual test, making sure that your quiet area for your test is secured. You don't want people coming into the room. If you're taking your test inside your house, making sure everyone in the house knows that from this time to this time, I need absolute silence, because you're not allowed to have headphones while you take the LSAT Flex. I don't even think earphones either, earbuds. But I will double check and probably put like a little bar that says yes or no. If you don't have a quiet area where you can take the test or reliable internet, make sure you go to LSAC and they will provide those accommodations. A loaner laptop in case you don't have one, and a private quiet study area so you can take your test in peace, okay? I understand trying to take a test or a practice test in your own home it's filled with distractions. So if you want to remove yourself and you can have a quiet area, LSAC will provide that for you. You have to make sure that you submit your request for those accommodations in advance. So make sure you check out the LSAC website and they'll tell you when those deadlines are. I want to make sure that everyone knows that those accommodations are available from LSAC. Okay, So I arrived at the test center. We're inside. Nothing else is gonna go wrong, okay? All you have to do is take the test. It got worse. There's a long line for us to check in / receive our tablets. Finally gets to the front, and then suddenly the assembly and the line just stops. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I asked one of the proctors and I said, hi, like what's going on? Like what happened? And she looks at me and she says, the tablets are not charged.
What?
So there are people and there are students who received their tablets already, and I guess those were fine, but I noticed there was a bunch of tablets, but the rest, they were not charged like at all. And there was 2 outlets that they were using to charge up like all these tablets. At this point, I'm flabbergasted. I feel
Bamboozled.
We weren't sure what was about to happen. So then they decide that, okay, so from me until about maybe like 30 more people, we were placed in a secondary room where they had charged tablets, luckily. This test center was in a hotel. The main test center was in the basement, or just like the lower level where they typically have like conferences. So there's no one really in those hallways and it's quiet down there. So now my room, the secondary room, we're now on the lobby level where it's bustling, there's people, but we're put into, you know, another little meeting room, but it's obvious that even inside the room, we can hear people in the lobby. So we get our tablets and we get our assigned seats and we're about to start the administration, and we're all sitting there and we start to hear music. We start to hear music from the next room, and that music is played throughout the entire test. And on top of that, every 30 minutes, someone would come into the hallway and just yell out someone's name, just yell. It seemed like it was a setup just for us. That brings me to tip number 2. Like I said, my test was crazy, to say the least. It was a lot. So I filed a test center complaint. I absolutely think it was necessary. Everyone should feel empowered to file for a test center complaint, but I will say that there are barriers which thwart other people from wanting to file a test center complaint. And I'll tell you why. Filing for a complaint takes a long time. I took the October test. I filed my complaint not too long after, and I didn't receive a decision until December. You should also keep in mind that if you are in a time crunch for your applications and you want to submit your applications like immediately, that it will take you at least 3 months to hear a decision for your complaint. I'm still going to encourage you, because if you feel you had a disadvantage during the time you took a test, you should file for a complaint, because here's why. 1, you can get a voucher so you can retake the test free of charge. 2, you can have L.S.A.T put a letter in your application stating this is what happened during this person's test and it created maybe a disadvantage and their score might not be properly reflected because of this. For me, that was really helpful. That's what I decided to go with. I got a letter in my actual application because I have a high GPA. I had a 3.8 GPA, and then I had a very low score because of this test administration. I didn't have to deal with a fire. If I didn't have to deal with 4 hours of traffic, if I didn't have to deal with uncharged tablets, and then being placed into a secondary room where there's music and noise all over the place, I wouldn't have scored so low. Okay, everybody, so that's all that I have for you. That is my L.S.A.T horror story. I hope that this video was helpful, and honestly, it was kind of comical as well. So I want to reassure you that this will probably not happen during your test. You're going to do just fine on the L.S.A.T, okay? You're all going to conquer the L.S.A.T, and I'll be having another video on how to study for the L.S.A.T. I'm going to be bringing in my own tutor. We're best friends now, and we're going to give you all great tips on how to conquer the L.S.A.T, what's the best study methods for you all. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, pretty gang. Yeah.